Good morning, South Africa, and to friends from all over the world, wherever you're listening from. If I were to greet in some of our South African languages, we've got 11 officially recognized languages. It would go something like Dumelang in Setswana, which is my home language. That's my mother tongue. And equally so, you use the same kind of phrase for Sesotho. In Venda, I would say Dimachirone. In Zulu, I would say Sanibonani, or I would say Sawubona. And in Afrikaans, I would say Goeiemôre. Hoe gaan dit? So from every corner of the world, wherever you're dialing in from, thank you very much, and welcome to the Simply Level podcast, where we live to impact lives for the better, one word and one leader at a time. My name is Simply Level, and if you're joining us for the very first time, where have you been? Thank you very much for the pleasure and the honor of your presence. We trust that today's conversation will be compelling enough for you to keep coming back. If you managed to join us, however, last week for our debut episode, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and if indeed you did and you found some value in it, please do share our link with friends, colleagues, and everyone within your circle and your network, so that more and more people can benefit from these collective insights and life-changing conversations. So, following on last week's introductory episode on this very important topic of leadership, we build on that foundation in this episode. And if for some reason you missed last week's episode, please do search for it under the subject Leadership Simplified on this very awesome platform called Spotify. We took some time last week and we explored and went on to define leadership by gleaning on some insights from known leadership experts and thought leaders. And from these insights, we went on to simplify the very concept of leadership, both in theory and in practice. We also dealt with some common leadership myths in an attempt to further simplify and demystify leadership. Well, on today's episode, however, I would like us to approach our conversation from a sub-theme that I've simply titled, Why Leadership? Yes, why leadership? Allow me to begin by asking this question. Why are you in leadership? This is now assuming that you are actively involved in leading people. Or alternatively, if you're not already leading people, why do you want to lead people, if that is your intention? Please, think about this question for a moment and do it earnestly so, and honestly so. Is it the idea of being the boss? Is it the allure or the pull of the title next to your name or on your business card or email signature? Is it that the title promises to earn you some brownie points with peers around the braai fire in South Africa or the barbecue in America? Or is it to make your parents proud that my son or daughter is now a manager or a hotshot who calls the shots? Or is it the idea that a higher rank equals higher pay? Whatever your motive or reason, this is probably the single most important question for a would-be leader to ask themselves before taking on the formal responsibility of being a leader in any hierarchical organization. Let me tell you a little story. In my young 15 years or so of leading teams, big and small, I have observed that too many people, too many of us, aspire to the position of leadership but not quite the responsibility of leadership. We seem to aspire more to the occupation and not enough to the participation. We chase after the perks of leadership, but seem to hate the pain that comes with being in leadership. Perhaps at this point, we need to acknowledge that for far too long, in many organizations, leaders with titles are respected or have been respected and paid more, perhaps rightly so at times, than ordinary folk, thus creating the notion and expectation that if an employee or a club member or a political society member, etc., whatever type of organization, that if they want to enjoy great financial benefits or earn the respect of peers and the society and so on and so forth, that they need to do whatever it takes to get to the quote-unquote recognized position of leadership or management. Resultantly, this has unfortunately and pervasively given birth to a culture where people fight, slander, backbite, and even sabotage others for positions, quote-unquote, that they deem to be rightfully theirs. I have no doubt in my mind that if we open up for calls on this very podcast, that many of us, if not all of us, would at least have a story to tell where we were either on the receiving or giving end of this battle for the leadership post. Personally, I believe you do not need a title to be a leader. In fact, anyone can lead if you define leadership as a service to humanity, a series of selfless acts to better the lives of those around you. It just so happens, rightly or wrongly, that society seems to reward formally recognized leadership roles or positions much more than the very act of leadership, which speaks to the responsibility and selfless service to others. It is my view that it is for this reason that so many people who work hard and tirelessly to earn the title of supervisor, manager, or head of this and that by hook or by crook may end up getting to that position, but soon become frustrated by the high call to serve others before themselves. Leadership is a high calling and demands selfless service to others with little or no expectation of a thank you, even in return. Well, friends, by now you would have probably caught on that today's episode goes to the heart of why do we as people choose to pursue leadership as a career choice. We're dealing today with the motive of a leader or a would-be leader. Now, about 17 years ago, while working as a junior in a big bank, in fact, this was my very first job, my very first exposure to employment, in one of the major banks in South Africa, a new manager took over our team. Little did I know that this dynamic leader would later become a long-term mentor of mine. This leader saw something in me that I did not even see in myself at the time, let alone pursue it. He shone a light on my potential and strengths, and his confidence in me and the leader that I would become, or I could become, inspired me to want to be better and do better. So inspired I was by this mentorship that in only my third year into my professional career, I was promoted to my very first management role. I didn't know it with the clarity that I do now. But looking back at this particular experience, I realized that it sparked the very reason why I chose leadership as a career choice. And that is, I wanted to shine a light or a spotlight on people's strengths and help them believe in their true potential to be better and do better. I was inspired by this mentorship to really pass the baton onto the next person. I wanted the next person to experience what I experienced, to really, feel that I matter and I have a role that fulfills me, that I can play in society today, and go to bed at night and say, I've made a big difference in somebody's life. So therefore, I owe immense gratitude to this leader for sparking a fire that would define the rest of my professional career and ultimately my life purpose. His name is John Lehonolo Shabalala, a man who, jokingly, I like to say and call him twice my size and twice my height. Again, friends, I ask, what is your reason for wanting to lead? Or your reason for leading if you're already in it? Have you given it some thought since earlier? In a light-hearted manner, I'd like to give you a very simple 3-point reverse checklist. Yes, I called it a reverse checklist, and you'll understand shortly why. And hopefully this can help you test your motive and or your suitability for leadership as a whole, or for any leadership role where you would have to actively lead and or manage other people daily. Are you ready for this? Number 1, if you enjoy your own company most of the time, significantly much more than you do the company of other people. Think about this. Is leadership truly for you? And hey, before you take out your guns, nothing wrong with enjoying your own company. In fact, I believe every one of us should be in a position where you're so secure in yourself and your own company that you don't necessarily need the company of others to truly validate who you are. Where I'm coming from with this is, if the company of other people drains you, if the company of other people wears you down, the question that I'm going to challenge you to ask yourself is leadership truly for you? Listen to this. While it's important for leaders to regularly take time to be alone and recharge, you probably shouldn't be in a leadership position where you are accountable and or responsible for others if being with people drains you more than it energizes you. I'm a big believer, personally, in taking time out to be alone and reflect. But doing this at the expense of spending time or investing time with the ones I'm leading will eventually alienate me to my team, thus making leading them effectively all the more harder. Leadership is about people, period. Number 2, if you do not enjoy being bothered, quote unquote, with problems to be solved, well, my friend, then leadership probably is not for you. If we didn't have problems, we wouldn't need leaders. Inherently, leaders are problem solvers. Or better yet, real leaders develop a culture and competence of problem solving in their teams. They obsess about removing barriers to performance and growth. So if you're getting annoyed and worn out by people bringing their issues, quote unquote, to you in desperate need of your help, then perhaps looking for a more specialist, or as some would call it, manager of self type of role is more suited for you or more your thing. Number 3, this is the final point I'd like to leave with you, the final thought. If you're motivated by profit instead of progress, then my friend, I wish you well. I wish you well if you are only motivated by the prospect of making money, whether that money is higher salary, higher, more bonuses or profits, etc. Let me tell you something. All the money in the world will never be able to compensate for the frustrations, additional stress, and responsibility that comes with being the leader of the team, the one with whom the buck stops. A true and authentic leader is motivated by the progress of their team, both as individuals and as a collective. A true leader invests time and resources in unearthing, nurturing, pruning, and helping release the native or unique genius that exists in every member of their team. To this kind of leader, profit becomes the consequence of progress. Allow me to repeat that. To this kind of leader, profit becomes the natural consequence of progress. If this does not describe you, then, my friend, perhaps a career change is long overdue. Well, while I'm aware that this is by far not an exhaustive checklist, as I said, I call it the reverse checklist that I've tailored, for the purposes of our conversation. I do believe, however, it goes to the heart of anyone's motive for wanting to be in leadership. If it's not about, the people, then it simply borders on manipulation for self-gratification. John C. Maxwell once said, "The measure of a leader is not the number of people who serve him, but the number of people he serves." Close quote. This marks the end of our episode this week, friends. We hope that this has been of value to you and worth your time. And we look forward to your feedback so we can continue to improve and accelerate and enhance our content. Let's do this again next week, God willing, as we continue to simplify leadership and inspire each other to be better and do better. This is Simply Lebo, and I'm out. Hey, tada.